Greetings, and welcome to Shadefeet Hollow. I'm the one called Septi, and I'm the one working on this little project. So, it started back this June when I was playing a MUD or a multi-user dungeon, which is a text-based version of things like WoW and whatnot. But I played it back in middle school in the late 90s, and it's still running. And it's based off of The Return of the Shadow, which is set in the 4th Age of Arda after the events of The Lord of the Rings. And so you get to create different characters. It's open world PvE, PvP, and while I was creating a character, I was trying to think of a good name for him, and while I was driving, thinking of this name, I just started thinking, well, why would they be called this, and where would this come from, and this story started coming out, and it was a delightful little tale, and I was able to write it out in about, 2 days, and it was a fun little short story, but as I wrote it, I realized, man, there's a lot of stuff I could tell with this. There's a lot of fun things happening here, and no, you're not going to meet anyone from the series. No, this is not any world-breaking stuff. This is just a little story nestled in the heart of the southeastern portion of the Shire, just following a little family of hobbits as they live in the world post-Saruman, post-Rings, and no, we're not trying to change the world or challenge the lore or anything like that. I love Tolkien's world, and it was fun to put myself within those limitations and see if I could tell an interesting and compelling story. Now, if you've watched the teaser, that is essentially the first little section of the first part as it was originally done, which is more of a campfire telling of the story. There's not a lot of dialogue, it's just pretty much straightforward. This is what's happening, and this is where they went. And it wasn't until I had written the second part of it where kind of ramps up a little bit. At first you think it's going to be a fun little children's story, and then you realize, oh no, this is going to have something for adults, and this is also something for kids to maybe give them a parable for maturation and some challenges that they may meet as they grow up. And so I'm very excited to write that, but it wasn't until I was working on the third part of what I foresaw at the time being a 4-part series that I realized, no, this is going to be different. This can actually be not just a challenge for me to better my writing, but this could actually be a really interesting and worthwhile story to tell and to hear. So I went back to the drawing board, set all that aside as what I'm calling my proof of concept, which I will upload like this. We'll read it kind of like we did last night with a little better lighting, and so you'll get the first 2 parts kind of spoilery, but in a very different format than what I hope to eventually tell. I have multiple scenes already written, a good chunk of what will eventually be the later part. I have everything outlined and mapped out. It's a matter of just continuing to flesh things out, and it's been a wonderful time to wrestle with this. It's been hard to just realize I go for weeks without having any desire to write, and then when it does come, it's just like the floodgates are open and it just pours out and things get better and get tweaked. And it has been a delightful writing exercise and challenge, and the people who I have tested it with have all given positive things. It's actually been hard to get legitimate criticism, but the criticism I have gotten has definitely helped the storytelling, and I hope that you will give us a shot. We're going to post a couple videos on here, and then I may be making a YouTube specifically for it, since it is obviously within a world that I do not own and I cannot monetize. So I'm just seeing this as a fun homage to one of the most inspirational authors to me, and just grateful to the writers that have inspired me, and just not even just to write, but have captivated my heart throughout the years. And I hope that this will be an adequate, at least, contribution to the art of storytelling. So stay tuned for more stories from Shadefeet Hollow.